Hello, and welcome to this edition of the 4 on 5 podcast. As always, I'm your host, Zach Oliver. Tonight, I'm joined by Andrew Montaigne of Pelican Debrief, James Griffo of Daily Knicks, Kevin Young of the Internet. You can find him writing about the Thunder and the Grizzlies at SB Nation. And Rick Stone, also of Pelican Debrief. Tonight we're going to be previewing the final game on Christmas Day, the Los Angeles Clippers and the Golden State Warriors. Unfortunately, due to some circumstances, our Warriors and Clippers experts had to cancel at the last second. But, we're here. We're going to make it work. All right, gentlemen, let's get some initial thoughts on this matchup. Rick, I'll start with you.
Well, this is an interesting one. The Clippers and the Warriors kind of play a little similar styles, fast-paced. They want to shoot a lot of threes. But interesting enough, these teams have kind of gone in different directions to start the year. The Golden State Warriors having one of the best starts they've ever had. Steph Curry is absolutely blazing. Klay Thompson's having a fantastic year. Their bench is running really, really well. And they're just winning games, rattling them off, and they look like they're just in sync completely. Well, the Clippers are having some problems. I believe they lost tonight. Chris Paul is not really doing enough to get them victories. Their bench is a huge problem going forward. They're not getting scoring off the bench. They're not getting production off the bench. And it's kind of interesting to see how these two teams that are going in completely different directions will play each other.
Yeah, and these two teams have a little bit of history from the postseason, and they've had some pretty intense games the last few years. Kevin, what are your initial thoughts?
Well, the Clippers and the Warriors are like a great rivalry at this point. Like they might be the NBA's best. Like I think it's right up there with maybe Clippers Thunder, maybe Grizzlies Clippers, but I think the big thing here is Golden State's been a bust out this season on both ends. They've been killing it on defense, and their offense is obviously lights out with Steve Kerr at the helm. The Clippers, they're good on offense, but I think their defense is really lacking this season. Obviously, DeAndre Jordan's still pretty good, borderline defensive player of the year. But then you're looking at a lack of options after him. You got Blake Griffin, who's not that much of a defensive player. JJ Redick and Jamal Crawford, a tire fire at shooting guard, and then just a total lack of a bench.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the biggest thing that might hold the Clippers back is their bench. James, you've talked about a handful of teams in the last couple of days. What do you see from these two teams so far this season?
Yeah, actually, I would like to echo back on Rick and Kevin about the Clippers bench. I mean, when you look at their bench consists of Jordan Farmar, Spencer Hawes, Zach's personal favorite, Glenn Davis, Hedo Turkoglu, and Reggie Bullock, who, that's not exactly a bright bunch when it comes to just performing all around, well. It's just a horrible bench on paper, and it also translates on the court as well. But in general, this matchup should be a very, very high octane game, particularly on the offensive end. You got these two teams. They're classic Western Conference run and gun style offenses who are both ranked top 10 in pace. The Warriors being ranked first in pace, and the Clippers being ninth. The Warriors, as everyone knows, are on an unbelievable start, a historic start as well, with Steve Kerr as a first-year coach. Not to mention he also has great assistants, but it's still amazing that Steve Kerr is leading the Warriors to 23 wins so far this season. This should be. I'm really looking. This is definitely the marquee Christmas Day game, without a doubt.
And finally, Andrew, what are your initial thoughts?
My initial thoughts are looking at how, and this is in my opinion, of course, but just how much better the starting lineup is right now for the Warriors as opposed to the Clippers. In the past, it's been that the Clippers' starting lineup has been viewed as better than the Warriors, and now I feel like that's been shifted um, in a rather heavy way. Just the way the Warriors have been performing, the emergence of Klay Thompson and Harrison Barnes in that starting lineup, the ability to move Andre Iguodala to the bench. They added Justin Holiday over the offseason. He's been a great pickup for at that wing spot as far as a defender goes. He can run in transition. He can shoot threes. It's going to be a fun game, and I think there's going to be a lot of points scored.
Yeah, and James kind of touched on this with the Clippers bench. When you're relying on Hedo Turkoglu and Glenn Davis as two of your main bench guys, you're you're probably in trouble. And the Clippers have been a team that people have tossed around for Josh Smith. They have Ekpe Udoh sitting on the bench. He'd probably be a better option than Glenn Davis at this point, but what can they really do? Andrew, looking at the Warriors a little bit more, they kind of made that change. I mean, David Lee's been out of the lineup for pretty much the whole season. He came back last night from a hamstring issue. What kind of I guess the versatility that having a guy like Draymond Green has added to that team and allowed them to kind of fluidly go into working with that lineup.
Yeah, I've been a big proponent of Draymond Green being in the starting lineup all year. This goes back as far as last year. David Lee with that starting lineup doesn't perform the same way, and he seems to really slow up and kind of clog that offense. And it's not because of him being a bad player, it's because of his style of play. And that lineup with Draymond Green, that Andrew Bogut or Festus Ezeli now, Draymond Green, Harrison Barnes, Klay Thompson, and Stephen Curry, when you've got those five guys on the court, you can do anything. All four, 1 through 4, can go to the rim. They can shoot threes. They can take mid-range, which they don't do a whole lot of. They're good at getting to the basket. They set nice picks. And then at the 5, you've got that defender, rim protector, extraordinaire, if you will. Not so much in Ezeli, but he would more than likely be a starting center on 10 other teams in the NBA right now. The other thing is that with him coming off the bench alongside Andre Iguodala, that really opens up your ability to bring another scorer off the bench. David Lee's not so much a defender, as we're all very aware of, I think. But he's able to get to the rim. He's really good on the left block, and he can shoot those mid-range jumpers from about 18 feet when he's feeling healthy and when he's on his game. And I think that's really important that when you can come in with a backup group, when you have a guard lineup of Sean Livingston, Justin Holiday, Leonardo Barbosa, guys like that who can come in and distribute the ball, that helps him a lot. And especially when he can be the center point of that offense. And that's what coming off the bench is allowing him to do.
Yeah, and the Warriors are in a little bit of a sticky situation, I want to say, with Andrew Bogut's health right now. We don't know how long he's going to be out of the lineup after having the plasma treatment done to his knee. James, with David Lee coming back, how much is that going to help their big rotation?
Well, I think it'll certainly help the rotation in many facets. It sucks though that Bogut's out because he's been fantastic this season, per usual when he's very healthy, as is with any player, but particularly with someone like Andrew Bogut. When he's healthy, he's on, like he's really on. But it's kind of funny. It's like when you think of it, it's like you're trading in one guy for because he's injured, and then the other guy's coming back. just it's like perfect timing. The other guy just got injured, so he's going to be getting lots of minutes. I mean, David Lee at the center. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that at all. I mean, the Warriors can pretty much play any style, and match it up with whatever other style the opposing team is playing. It's like if they want to play small, and the other team wants to play small, then they'll play small. If they want to play big, then they'll play big. So I think David Lee at the center will fit just fine. I don't think the Warriors should be worrying at all.
And switching gears a little bit to the Clippers, we've kind of seen them struggle some this season, especially on the defensive end. We touched on it. They have DeAndre. Matt Barnes has been known for his defense, but it's kind of been slacking. He's had a rough start to the season. Redick's just kind of a serviceable guy. Blake isn't anything spectacular on that end, and you have Chris Paul, but you're pretty much relying on your center. And their depth is also not great. Kevin, if the Clippers really want to consider themselves a contender in the Western Conference, do you think they're going to have to make a trade of some sort?
I was actually looking into this right before the podcast started. The thing is, it wouldn't hurt to have more bodies. I think they need more bodies when Jamal Crawford is your only real plus from the bench. But the thing is, their cap sheet is so tight. They don't have many trade assets. Their only real trade option involves trading Jamal Crawford, which is a bit backward if you want to upgrade the bench. And they're really tight up against the luxury tax. They might have to trade a pick, but I don't actually know if they have any picks to trade. It's tough. There's just not a lot of options for them. The best I can come up with is maybe a package trade of maybe Jamal Crawford, one of Reggie Bullock and C.J. Wilcox, and maybe a pick. But then you'd have to find 2 or 3 guys in a package deal to get back. That would be an actual upgrade. It's tough.
I mean, yeah, it's tough, and they're in a position, especially cap-wise. They're a couple $100,000, I believe, from hitting the hard cap, and then they're screwed. I mean, you look at it, they could consider trading DeAndre Jordan, who's going to be a free agent, especially if they get a guy who can fill in that defensive void potentially. Maybe a guy like Timofey Mozgov, and get Wilson Chandler also to add to that bench. But they're really in a tough spot. Rick, if the Clippers do stand pat, what do you think their ceiling is this season?
Well, their ceiling's a little tricky because we know how congested the Western Conference is. There's those 8 teams that just seem like they're going to compete. And when it comes down to it, it seems like for the past few years it's been about matchups. They played Golden State last year. In my opinion, they got a little lucky to walk out of that series with a win. Golden State played them really well. They had a good strategy against them. And we know they've had problems versus Memphis. And they haven't really done anything to fix the team. Look, they've tried to make deals. They've tried to sign players. They took risks on guys like Danny Granger, on Hedo Turkoglu. And they just haven't panned out the way they had hoped. They wanted to play more of an outside shooting team with a bunch of guys that can, on the bench, shoot long balls, but the problem with that is their defense on that bench unit has really collapsed. They've given up a lot of points, and like Kevin said, they don't really have the flexibility to make a trade, and it seems more and more that teams are getting stingier with players. They want better deals if you're the one that's asking for a trade. So they're in a tight position. If I had to give their ceiling, maybe they get through one round. Maybe if Blake Griffin gets going, they have a chance to make some kind of run, but with the roster they have, you have to at least consider that they're not really a legit title contender, at least this year.
Yeah, and they took that chance on Hedo. They took a chance on Glenn Davis. They took a chance on Danny Granger last year. None of them have really worked out. And then they went and gave Spencer Hawes, I believe, the full mid-level exception.
Yikes.
Which, I mean, Hawes is a serviceable big, but that's an albatross of a contract for what he's going to bring, especially off the bench.
I mean, they went for role players who could shoot, and unfortunately, other than shooting, they really didn't bring anything. They didn't take the opportunity to try to get a young defender. They didn't try to get a role player like the Warriors have so many of, guys like Draymond Green who can play and just play really, really good defense, get the boards, that hustle that he does. The Clippers never went after a guy like that, and it's showing in the games that they're playing right now that they don't have a guy who can do everything. They just have a ton of guys who can do a few things.
Yeah, and the Warriors have gone and done that with a handful of guys. They have Andre Iguodala, who is probably one of the more underrated wings in the NBA for what he brings. He's solid on the defensive end. His shooting has improved. He's a good ball handler. Harrison Barnes is turning the corner even more. Draymond Green, Steph Curry's improving, and he's still shooting fireballs every night. Klay Thompson is improving and most likely going to be getting a very large payday this offseason. And then they've got a good set of bigs. And you can't say that about the Clippers. You have Blake, you have DeAndre, you have Chris Paul. Okay. And then it's a couple of layers of dirt, and then you hit a six-man of the year guy in Jamal Crawford, J.J. Redick, couple more layers of dirt and pretty much everyone else, which is probably going to be their downfall come playoff time unless they shake up that roster in some way. Getting back to this game on Christmas, though, we're going to get potentially an ugly game before that. How do you think the NBA did scheduling this one last and making sure that they get a game that could be really good? Rick, we'll start with you.
I think it was a good decision. I mean, this is a series that was really competitive last year in the playoffs. Well, Western Conference Series wasn't entertaining in all ends, but this one was a really interesting one. The matchups really played well. I think this was a good matchup. The Clippers and the Warriors are two teams that are rising in popularity, both Western Conference teams, and as a late game, it's that high power, high offense, a lot of threes, fast-paced game that people are really, really going to like. So there's no complaints there. They picked a really good game. It's just the Clippers got off to a little bit of a worse start than people expected, but this is going to be a good game. It might be a little bit ugly when the benches come in, but when it comes to stars, this game is filled with them.
Yeah, Kevin, do you think this is a way that the NBA can kind of potentially save some ratings after that game? I mean, they're going to draw the fans that they want for that Bulls-Lakers game, but people might decide to turn it off if the Bulls or even the Lakers, who are giving the Warriors fits tonight, get up by 15, 20 points and decide to spend more time with their families.
I think it's arguably the best matchup for the day, the entire day. Of course, Oklahoma City and San Antonio is going to be a good one. Cleveland and Miami will be fun, but obviously this one's one of the better matchups of the day. My only complaint really is they have it scheduled as the last game, and obviously it's a West Coast game, but maybe there's some folks on the East Coast that's a bit late for.
Yeah,
no complaints. This will be a great game.
We've seen that before. We've seen the Lakers play that 2 o'clock slot or that 5 o'clock slot on ESPN or ABC. James, do you think that this is going to be the game of the day, or do you think that there's one before that could jump up in there?
I mean, I think it's the game of the day. Of course, OKC San Antonio is definitely the competing game of the day, of course. But Cleveland Miami. I mean, just for the LeBron storyline, that's probably why people would put it as the top matchup. But still, I still think Golden State and LA will. I think suffice it to say that it is the best matchup of the day. I mean, as a fan of the NBA, I think it's definitely the best one out of all three. And again, OKC San Antonio, it's they're like interchangeable. Both are Western Conference clashes, and you know, you're pretty much set up to watch great games nonetheless, no matter what game it is. So
Andrew, your thoughts?
I don't know. I don't see a way that this isn't the game of the day unless OKC and San Antonio go off into a Game 7 of the playoffs deja vu, if you will. All the other games seem to me like they're kind of pre-decided already because of the matchups. It's and we've talked about this a little bit before in more not in this setting, but the fact that these are just big market teams playing good teams more or less. You've got the San Antonio OKC matchup, which is a good basketball game, and you've got the Golden State Warriors versus the Clippers, which just so happens to be what will more than likely turn out to be a good basketball game, but it's also two big markets. But then you've got the Knicks, who are a tire fire at best, playing the Wizards. That game shouldn't be very close. And then you've got Chicago playing the Lakers, two big name markets, and Chicago should blow the Lakers out of the water. No pun intended there. I think it's far and away the game of the day, and I'm not sure anything else can compete with it just because of the nature of those games that have played out over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and you touch on it a little bit. The slate is a little underwhelming because of the disappointment that the Knicks and the Lakers have been so far this season, and the injuries that really all of those teams have had. Do you think that we're getting to a point that maybe the NBA should consider being able to flex games on Christmas, maybe move a game back from the day after Christmas or a couple days before?
I would love that personally, but I mean, who am I?
That's fair.
Well, ratings are ratings ultimately. So
and that's what it's about,
I mean, like Wizards Knicks, like that's like a porta potty full of crap. But like both,
John Wall's on line one. He'd like to speak with you.
Okay, well, the latter is the crap filled toilet, but like Bulls Lakers, I do think though, I don't want to it's like a potential snoozer, like not exactly. I don't think it's exactly like a snoozer in its entirety. I mean, that could potentially be a decent game. I mean, the Bulls as of lately, as a matter of fact, we had Kevin Farragut on here talking about the Bulls and their inability to close out games and in crunch time or they'll have a lead and then they give it up and then somehow they grind it out and they come back and win. So that could be up there as a good one, but it's still in the bottom two games of the day. That's
right. Kevin, we'll go to you with this. What's a matchup that you'll be watching in this game?
Let me think. That's a tough one. I think I'm going to go with, Chris Paul and Steph Curry is the easy answer. I think I'm going to go with Blake Griffin and Draymond Green. I think Harrison Barnes is usually the nominal power forward, but I feel like he's going to get more time guarding Blake Griffin than Draymond's going to get more time, than Harrison Barnes, and that's going to be an interesting matchup. Obviously, Draymond Green's got an entire toolbox of defensive abilities, I guess you could say. He's tough, he's fast, and that'll make him fun for defending Blake. Because obviously Blake's got it all in offense. He's a great passer, a great dribbler, a decent dribbler, and obviously a great when it comes to attacking the rim and posting up. So that's a pretty good matchup there.
Rick, what's a matchup that kind of intrigues you on paper?
Well, I mean, there's obviously the easy choices. Chris Paul versus Steph Curry is going to be great. I'm actually looking, obviously, again, towards the benches with Andre Iguodala, who will probably be getting a lot of work on Jamal Crawford. The last time they played, the Clippers lost big, but Jamal Crawford actually led the team with 24 points, shot the ball really well. And I'm sure the Warriors are looking at that game going, hey, if we don't want to let them win this time, we're going to have to stop them. And Andre Iguodala is probably their best bench defender, so they're probably going to have him on Jamal Crawford in this game, and it's going to be interesting to see how both teams kind of counteract with their bench units. If the Clippers can get their bench unit going, maybe they have a chance in this game, and they're going to have to do it with getting Jamal Crawford going. He's one of those guys, when he's hot, and it's really, really tough to stop him shooting the ball. So that's probably the matchup I'll be watching.
Andrew, anything you'll be watching matchup-wise?
This is a very, very, very Golden State Warriors nerd kind of matchup, but I want to see how Justin Holiday plays when he's paired up with a guy like Jordan Farmar or Jamal Crawford, just because of what we've seen from him lately has been a lot of good defense. He runs in transition, and he cuts to the basket and makes open shots. I want to see if Jamal Crawford or Jordan Farmar can kind of limit him. He seems to be one of those little tiny X factors that we don't often think about with that team.
And finally, James.
Well, I mean, I'm probably the only one that's like looking forward to seeing Maurice Spates and Glenn Davis. But you know, outside of CP3 and Steph Curry, probably I don't know. I mean, yeah, CP3 and Steph Curry, but Jamal Crawford and Andre Iguodala actually that would be a very fascinating matchup. Andre Iguodala's defensive value, I think, is very underappreciated, and to see a very underrated defensive player on a Sixth Man of the Year winner, you know, that's going to be a very interesting one to see.
Yeah, I'll throw one out there. You know, that kind of seems to be a little underrated. Klay Thompson versus JJ Redick. You know, we're going to be kind of looking at potentially a swing matchup in the game there. You know, you have a guy in Klay Thompson who's really come along a long ways on both ends of the floor, and you know, Redick's not known for his defense, but he's serviceable, and you know, both of them like to run off screens and get open shots, so that should be interesting to see. We're going to go ahead and get this wrapped up here soon, but before we finish, I'm going to start with Rick. We'll go to Rick, Kevin, James, and then Andrew. Who wins and why?
Well, if the Clippers are going to want to win this game, they're going to have to slow the game down. Without Andrew Bogut, the Warriors are probably going to have to put David Lee in the game and have him guarding DeAndre Jordan. So the only way that they can win is to try and grind them down low. Use Blake Griffin and use post-ups. DeAndre Jordan, even you're going to have to try. Even Chris Paul, try him posting up on Steph Curry, but they're going to have to slow the pace to try and make it a grindable game so that the Warriors can't use that fast three-pointers coming from every direction to beat you. That being said, do I think the Clippers are going to play that style? Absolutely not. So I'd have to pick the Warriors in this game. Their style, just the way they're playing right now, fits how this game is going to go. I could see this being a blowout. The last time they played, the Warriors won by 10-plus points, and they had like 22 turnovers. So if they handle the ball well and do what they did last game, this could be over fast.
Mr. Young.
Okay, I've got the Dubs. They're just a better team. Obviously, both teams are pretty good on offense. They're amazing on offense. But the Dubs are the one that are also holding down the fort defensively.
James.
Yeah, I think the Warriors come out with this one, and I actually do like to agree with Rick on the Clippers the Clippers playing a very, you know, like a Memphis Grizzlies, like, you know, grinding half-court offense. You know, the Warriors, you know, as I said earlier, are first in pace, and you know, they're also first in defensive rating, which is also amazing. You know, when you have a team that just, you know, barrages you with threes and plays, you know, top drawer defense, you know, you're gonna have to you know, adjust yourself mid game, you know, especially in the half court, you know, because the team that plays ridiculous fast break offense, No, you're gonna have to figure something out later on.
And last but not least, Mr. Montaigne.
I'm going Team Coco. If only for that song.
Alright.
I just think they're the better.
I mean, I also want to see Festus Ezeli and DeAndre Jordan, but who am I? I don't know. We might not see that.
Yeah, who are you?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Alright, well, that's going to do it for this edition of the 4 and 5 podcast. Again, I'm your host, Zach Oliver. You can find me on Twitter covering the Orlando Magic at Zach Oliver NBA. You can find Mr. Rick Stone at Rick Stone NBA covering the Pelicans. You can find Kevin on Twitter at Kevin HFY. He'll be giving you all the Grizzlies, Thunder, and cute puppies that you need. You can follow James on Twitter at J_Griff to see the sad life of a Knicks and a Jets fan.
Oh, man.
And you can follow Andrew on Twitter at Andrew Montaigne. I don't know. Just do it if you feel like it. For this edition of the 4 and 5 podcast, again, I am Zach Oliver. Everyone, have a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. Enjoy it with your friends and family.
Watch the basketballs, kids.